All right. Hey, yo, what's up, people? We're back. Strange Fruit Sociology, talking about a bunch of stuff. My name's Anthony Blackshear. My colleague, Bruce. Wait, we're not colleagues no more. We're still colleagues.
We're still colleagues. We're still colleagues, yeah.
Forgive me, I'm still getting used to this new academic language jargon. Track, so confusing. But yeah, we talk about things in the news.
Yeah.
Forgive me, I'm still getting used to this. Why do I always do that? Yeah. But yeah, we talk about. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties here, people. There we go. The show was playing live because we were doing the show live. So sorry for those technical difficulties. I fixed it this time without having to start an entire new chat like we did last week, which was something.
That was funny. That was maddeningly funny. For sure.
It was. Yo, I know. It's not as if a whole lot of people watch this, but the few people who watch this, at least on my campus, they are so excited that we take the classroom into a virtual space and we do these types of things, and they have no idea. We weren't trained for this.
Real talk. We got to do stuff with this every single week. It takes us like a half hour just to get online with each other.
Right. It's like I'm young, but still, I don't even know how to use all the stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, word, I feel you.
Let alone,
and I have no idea. Yeah.
Right. Let alone running an entire webcast. So, anyhow, shout out to technical difficulties. But I actually wanted to start with a topic that Bruce didn't say and has no idea. I don't even know if you happen. You all know I'm an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, right?
I know you're an Oklahoma City Thunder fan. Okay.
And we lost game 2.
You did, yes.
But we won game 1.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm happy there.
I was surprised with that one. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say I was surprised.
But after the game, one of our players, Steven Adams, who's from New Zealand, got into some trouble because when he was asked about having to guard Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and some of the other folks, he said they were quick little monkeys.
Oh!
The genuine reaction, because Bruce had no idea that this was said. But here's the question though. He's from New Zealand. He's only been in the U.S. for 4 years. I'll ask you the question that I hate asking, right? So for the sake of just being simple about it, was that or was that not racist?
That was that's racist as hell. Period. Point blank. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Even in a different cultural context, that is racist as hell. Because I'm sure in New Zealand, I'm assuming this dude's a white dude. Am I right in that assumption?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily a white dude? Okay.
Not necessarily.
I don't know that, if that changes my opinion about it, but yo, you can't say black people. If I was a black person and said that to another black person, or I am a black person, if I said that to another black person in a news conference, I would catch shit over that too. You know,
but you're from here. He's Tongan and British.
Yeah, that doesn't play well, bro. See, you know what? Was that racist? What? It's like, to me, remember, it's like, to me, I got these levels of stuff. It's like, did he have intent behind that? It's like, is that first degree racism? You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm thinking of right now. I was like, is that first degree racism? Probably not. I'm going to give him a cultural pass on this. Maybe. Was it racist? Yes. The underpinning of just talking about black people in any sense other than as humans, I would just say is inherently racist. But yeah, this is how people get fired though. It's like, because they don't know that there's certain words that it's like, you know what, you could have meant it in the best of spirit, but if you don't know the history of that word or something like that, then just don't use it. Don't try to be colorful. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't try to use some colorful language or whatever. Your girl Hillary Clinton, not to change the subject too much, but your girl Hillary Clinton, she got busted on that when she said that Donald Trump made some comments and he went off the reservation. It's like, yo, what the hell are you doing? You are running for the highest office in the nation, and you're saying comments like he got off the reservation, which means, in translation, these Native Americans don't know that they're supposed to stay on the reservation, and so what are these fools doing by trying to escape? It's like that's the connotation that comes with get off the reservation and whatnot. And I'm like, yo, but I hear that word, I hear that phrase all the time, and like, what is it? Like, I just got finished watching Mission Impossible, and it's like the idea of these, you know, rogue agents going off the reservation. I don't even know what the hell why they would apply.
I've never heard that phrase, off the reservation.
No, I've heard. Oh, you haven't heard that? Anyway, as I said, I'm watching these spy movies and stuff like that, and I've heard that phrase in that space when they go rogue.
Well, to me, that's the difference. I mean, this is a basketball player. This isn't Hillary Clinton. Yes, by our definition of racism, yes, that's certainly racist. I got to be careful how to say this. I don't want to say I give him a pass. I don't want to say it that exactly, but this ain't lose your job worthy. This is, hey, come into office. Let's have a talk.
Yeah. No.
And he issued an apology, which, unlike most apologies on these issues, seemed real sincere. He said, "Man, I didn't know. Still figuring this stuff out. I'm still assimilating. My bad. Don't worry about. I won't say that again." So, yeah. Anyhow. Let's stay in pop culture. Speaking of, is that racist?
Look, by the way, true repentance will smooth over a lot of things. And so,
I think so.
If you're saying that he was truly repentant, then I'm cool. I think so. You don't need to be bounced. We good.
It's still that ooh moment.
Ooh, bro, I'm telling you that. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know. Yeah, I had no idea.
So let's stay in pop news of is that racist? Blake Lively tweeted Instagram a photo of her on one side showing the front of her gown, and was this Cannes? This was at the Cannes Film Festival. And the other side on the red carpet featured the back of her dress, and the caption was "LA faced with an Oakland booty." To quote the great scholar, well, no, it wasn't the great scholar. Yeah, the great scholar Sir Mix-a-Lot from his immensely popular sociological text exploring female body. Oh, baby got back, right? So controversial, racist, flattering.
I'm having a hard time with this one because when I was like, on first blush, for real, I didn't know what the big deal was, and you know, I literally didn't know what the big deal was, and then I started, you know, and then I started scrolling through the comments, and I started hearing phrases like, "Who's this privileged woman who is?" Commodifying the women of color's bodies, and being really upset with this, like I said, the idea that she's in a privileged space. Somebody even said, has she ever even been to Oakland? Like stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, like I kind of get it. I'm understanding the commodification of women's bodies, or women of color's body, and how she's saying that. I don't think it's an appropriation, because it's a lyric from a song. That, and why is no one upset about the song itself? That's a whole different bag of chips. Like, I'm like, not to say that I wasn't shaking my ass and watching the video with Sir Mix-a-Lot, because I was youngin' back in the day, and I get the framework. It's like, you got to get to do, you know, it's like I'm black, and I get the duality of what he was trying to do, and yet mixed in with a lot of the misogyny that he wasn't trying to do, but that he did really well anyway. But you know, it's like, like I said, it was a really, to me, it was actually really complicated. Was she being racist? Nah, it's not even a pass. It's not racist. It's just not. But why people are offended? Yeah, hey, look, knock yourself out. Be offended if you want.
If the issue is appropriation right there, I'll tell you that song has been covered by more white boys, white girls, fraternities, sororities, and karaoke bars.
Yeah.
The appropriation of Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back we lost that. If that's that was something we were trying to hold on and cling to, right? I mean, just my experience in 1 a.m. karaoke when do. So I don't know what the big deal is. Like, it's not to say that I can see I can see the races, I can see the layers of appropriation, I can see the layers of insulting, I can see the layers of what it means to identify LA with glamour and beauty, code whiteness, and Oakland with booty, code blackness, right? I can totally see that. Yeah. But like you said earlier, I'm not gonna be upset at what's happening at level, it shows up at 10. I'm not gonna be mad at what happens at 8, 7, and 6. I need to go to the root issue at 0 and 1. And why did this, why is this text so celebrated? And for folks who consider Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back as an ode to Black women and female empowerment and beauty and changing up the standards, that's all good and great, but understand it's doing so from a very sexist place. Yeah. Very sexist, misogynistic, hateful of women place. I mean, to celebrate the booty in that regard is not to celebrate women. So when Blake Lively commodifies this inherent hatred of a woman, do you, boo? Okay. I can't get as mad at that in terms of the appropriation. So, and maybe I'm wrong, right? Oftentimes in these spaces, particularly when it comes to issues of sexism and misogyny, I reserve the right to say I probably, even as a scholar of these things, only know 30 to 40%, even if I master the knowledge, because I don't have the lived experience, right? So, feel free to check me on this, but okay, all right.
I'm in the same camp, but like I said, it surely blew up on the newsreels and Twitter, Facebook, all of that, or whatever. It went. Yeah, it was crazy. But I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not that upset.
Never mind. Okay, I don't want to get fired. I'm not tenured yet. I have to, as we do this podcast, I remind myself I'm not tenured yet.
So you're like, oh yeah, I can't say that.
No, never mind. Okay. Let's go to some more. Well, let's say we kind of segued into some gender issues. You're a huge House of Cards fan.
Oh, gigantic. I'm
a huge sports fan. So we have two stories that are very connected, and that is Robin Wright threatened to go public. This is I'm looking at Hollywood Reporter. Robin Wright threatens to go public if she does not get equal pay as Kevin Spacey on House of Cards.
Yeah. No, this is
House of Cards fan.
No, definitely. And the argument in the paper, I think, is dead on. There is one space where I was like, hey, that's Kevin Spacey. I'm just being real. I think he won an Oscar. I think that was American Beauty or something like that. It's like, I'm not saying that she don't deserve equal pay, because I watched the show and she is as important, if arguably not as more important of a character. Like the storylines around her, to me, are way more intriguing than the storylines around Kevin Spacey's character. I'm being dead serious. I'm not even trying to play into any of this. I am a fan of House of Cards. And like I said, the storylines around her are way more intriguing to me than with Kevin Spacey's character. But for her to not get equal pay, that to me, I was like, this is like, if y'all can't get this right, then she has a right to go off on y'all, because if you don't understand how important she is to that show, then you deserve her to walk out. You deserve her to make a mess of this bad boy, because, like I said, without a doubt, if there was anything to say about equal work deserves equal pay, is definitely with Robin Wright. No doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that's the one of the huge questions, right? Is that I asked, not having seen the show, the question I have is, well, are the storylines equal, right? As the lines, are they relatively equal? Is the importance of the character equal? And when you ask those questions and the answer is yes, then absolutely you deserve equal pay. And then for me, I get into other issues. Okay, who's doing the publicity, right? I mean, this is just in pop culture. Who is the driving force around the character according to the writers? And, you can attest to this, but just from reading about it, this is a show where the storyline is driven around both of these characters, the matriarch and the patriarch of this family. Yeah. And if you answer yes, it has to be equal pay.
It has to be. Yeah, like I said, and there's no doubt. In season 1, you can make the argument. You surely can make the argument that Kevin Spacey's character was more important. Season 2, she takes off, and season 3, I'm watching it now. Like I said, I'm telling you, for me, and don't nobody tell me about season 4. I will slap you. Do not do that. Of course, metaphorically. Wait, hold on. I'm taking. I can say I'll slap you, but for real, like I said, the storylines around her are way more interesting in season 3 than they are around. Like, he should get a reduction in pay because he's just playing the same character. Her character is the one that's developing. His character has plateaued, quite honestly, for me. But her character is dynamic. It's increasing in value. Even, like I said, in past equality, honestly, like I said, I think that her character is actually driving the show right now, no doubt.
Yeah, and this comes on the same time that the U.S. women soccer players are filing a lawsuit claiming that they deserve equal pay and equal treatment as their male soccer counterparts. In America, women aren't getting equal pay, and this lawsuit actually goes beyond pay. And we're just talking about, we talk about level playing field. Literally, these players are advocating for an equal playing field, right? I remember not even 5 years ago or so, their practice space or their game, they were playing on grass, not grass, on turf.
Yeah.
Soccer is not meant for turf. I don't know much about soccer, but I know turf and grass have entirely different feels when part of the game is sliding and diving, right? It's not like football where you wear these pads. And even the type of hotels that the players are staying at. The U.S. men's national team is staying at these 5-star luxury hotels. And one of the friendlies, the women were staying like at a Best Western or some equivalent. Nothing wrong. Shout out to the Best Western. Nothing wrong with Best Western.
Just you ain't no 5-star hotel. We all know that. But that's
not when your male counterparts are staying at the Ritz-Carlton, right?
Word. That's what we're saying. Exactly.
That's what we're saying. And this case has a tremendous complexity to it in that our women's national team dominates the world in soccer. They win World Cups. They're in the playoff rounds consistently. They win the Olympics. Hope Solo. Amy Wambach. I know these players' names. Again, I'm not a huge soccer fan, but I know who they are. If you ask me to name a male soccer player on the national team, there's that goalie. And I am aware that Landon Donovan doesn't play anymore.
Got it. Look, man, it's like this one, it's like in Olympics. I know that there's a lot of complications in how people get sponsored and things like that, but technically it's supposed to even be, amateur, right? It's like so to whatever degree, it's like if you're giving a group of people some money, then this should be equally distributed. It's like, look, if they're going to be sponsored, let that take over in regards to how people get paid and whatnot. I get that because you can't control that from the Olympic perspective, but the government should be able to get this thing squared away and squashed quickly because, as you said, it's like, look, if anybody should be getting into the Ritz-Carlton, it should be the women's team because they're the ones that's actually winning, period. Done.
And here's the complexity, right? And I encourage you to read more. I wish we could get into like an entire. Maybe one day we'll just spend an entire so we can go through some of the facts and the figures, right? Mm-hmm. Where the United States is saying that, well, men bring in more money because men go see the other countries, right? Like U.S. Mexico will fill a stadium when it's men's soccer, and that's part of this the culture. Getting in trouble here, right? But the global culture of patriarchy and interested in men's sports. So yes, men will bring in more money, but it's because men who are into soccer from around the world are watching the game. Yeah. If we in the United States, if it's our women that are carrying the cultural torch for soccer in terms of winning, right? Certainly, I'm not at all trying to diss the men and saying that they're not doing their part to bring soccer into the country and into our culture as a sport of interest. But if women are doing it by winning the major competitions, I'm sorry. I guess I disagree that maybe the women don't deserve equal pay. Maybe they deserve more.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, to me,
like, let's reward. We ask, and this is some real crazy cultural stuff here, right? We ask you to win. Yeah. We don't reward you for winning.
And then we wonder why the men's team ain't bringing home the gold or the what. See, and here I am. I'm sure I'm gonna get in trouble with that one because, you know, we live in a world of participation trophies and everything. But it's like, yo, I get that there might be more money around. I get all of that. I truly do. But if we're going to reward, you know, the Olympics. I thought the Olympics were a competition. And so therefore winning therefore is, you know, or I thought that this was a sport, therefore that winning is the priority, and I get that. But like I said, it's just, you know, it surely, now that I'm aware of it, sends the wrong message to, you know, to anybody who's competing and whatnot. It's like, look, if you bring in more money, it doesn't matter how you perform. Maybe that's what the nation is trying to tell us.
It always baffles me that I ask us to, let's use some sociology words, right? But I ask us to honor the ideal culture. Like, it always baffles me that I know there's a difference between ideal and real culture, and I always expect rewards to be given based off of ideal culture because that's what we struggle to hold on to and to achieve. I always surprise myself.
Yeah. And speaking of ideally, yeah, right, because you know, because we're talking about pay, and you know, something another article that I was reading about is like inequality in pay when it comes to race, right? And the way that the article is framed, it kind of trips me out that when we talk about pay inequality, and you know, it's like, and I'm going to say this, and without taking anything away from women and equal pay, I completely get that. I've actually over these few weeks that we've been doing this, have read a lot of articles regarding women and equal pay. Women and equal pay, and I completely get the reason why. It's like wage gap, all of that stuff. But what we rarely talk about is the race gap. Right, and so the study was done, and it was like, and it lays out so cleanly who's at the bottom of this pay hierarchy, and that is Black people by far, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they talked about Hispanics also, and this is in no way disassociating, Hispanic folks with the Black reality, but this is the reason why we have to say things like Black Lives Matter, because if you don't call it out, then you don't realize that there is a huge disparity in living a Black life, right? And so then even in the very beginning of the article, it talks about how Black people, how in no area, no region in the country where Black people get paid more or paid equally to white people, that where their unemployment rates or their pay is equal to that of white people. You notice how the art, like I said, and when I read it, I was looking for the Hispanic part too, but it's like, it's not there because Hispanics don't suffer the same reality. However, it's like, of course, the majority of their populations and regions or whatever is where white people are privileged over Hispanics. But for Black people, there is no region where their unemployment rates are high, are equal to or higher than white people or their pay. And, you know, and when you're thinking about, and you know, one of the, because you know, I'm a statistician, right? I shouldn't say I'm a statistician. I teach statistics, and so one of my first questions would be, is like, well, Black people tend to live in areas where you can have a lower pay rate, therefore that probably covers it all. Well, guess what?
That's not the case.
Yeah, that's not the case. That's clearly not the case because they controlled for region, and you continue to see all across the nation that Black people, even when they live in the same areas as white people, that those folks still have huge gaps in regards to their pay and whatnot. So yeah, like I said, but we don't want to talk. I only saw one article about race. I've seen at least 10 on women on the inequalities with women.
Yeah, and that's not to say that that's to say it's what grabs attention, right? And one of the things that I love that we do is we spend a lot of time looking at news sources, not sociological articles, right? Because sociological articles and stuff in the journal, that's not the stuff that the public is talking about. So the fact that we're gravitating toward news sources, there is a what's selling newspapers, and we use the type of media that is commercial and with all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
By the way, I use that correctly. Intents and purposes, not intensive purposes.
And obviously it's like, as sociologists and whatnot, it's like, and so when we talk about women or the wage gap, the gender wage gap, it's easy to idealize that we're only just talking about women, right? Or that the wage gap for women, but there's also a women of color wage gap also. And again, the uncomfortable conversation that we continue to have around, that we continue to have around race, if we have the conversation at all, right? I mean, and whatnot, but that I get it. I get why it sells papers to talk about just quote women. I get why it sells papers because it's an easier article to write.
Right.
What about race and what about intersectionality?
Right.
Yeah, that's gonna be a harder sell. I get it, but that's why we do what we do.
I've read intersectionality hundreds of times in sociological journal articles. I cannot remember a time I've seen the word intersectionality in any newspaper.
Yeah, I feel you.
Speaking of newspapers, that's not a newspaper. There's no transition to this. Boom, moving on. This week in police, there were two stories that you shared with me that I thought were fascinating. The LA sheriff, top LA sheriff, this Huffington Post title, top LA sheriff, official resigns over racist emails. Tom Angel was forced to resign for inappropriate. Bruce, you have not read these emails.
Hey, yo, I wanted to let people know. It's like, Anderson
read these emails
me, and I don't know what these emails have said. I was just like, my whole take on this one. This actually reminds me of the Donald Sterling take that we had before, of where I actually sat there and defended this dude and just said, hey, do you have a right to be racist in private? Like, I'm just saying, that's something that I think about, because I know that if somebody audio clipped us, or excuse me, let me speak directly for myself.
Speak for yourself, play. I don't know what you're talking about.
If somebody audio clipped me at the wrong time or the wrong moment, or dropped into my class at the wrong time and wrong moment, I know that there could be a lot of interpretations of what it is to.
But that's different than that's different than outright sexist, outright homophobic, right? Like,
I feel you.
I'll vouch for you, right? I know you don't make homophobic statements and share homophobic jokes with your colleagues and share homophobic jokes through your email of business.
I appreciate that. However, I just want to make something clear. I was accused of being racist when there was a person who literally, there was like a photographer for the Summer Bridge program that we have here. That he was not connected to the program at all. He was literally just paid to take pictures of whatever. And he comes in when I was talking about hate crimes and completely interpreted this is what a hate crime is to I'm encouraging hate crimes in my class. That's what happened. And that's why I'm like, yo, I get it. A lot of
you read these emails. That's not even
emails. So talk to. Okay, all right. I'm ready. I'm bracing myself right now.
Yeah, I can't read them. I'm gonna be honest. I can't, as a non-tenure track faculty. Halfway say these things. I run the risk of losing my job just sharing information. So I encourage you, for a more in-depth discussion on this thought process, just Google. This is all posted on the LA Times. But I think the conversation comes down to, and listen, let me just say, it's mostly jokes about Islamophobia, right? That reveal Islamophobia. Okay. And it's very insensitive. It's distortion of facts. There's one email that is sent out like a reminder, this is what these folks have done. Most folks don't know these folks have done this, which is just an outright distortion of facts, or it's pieced together in a way that ignores context. And I mean, it is Islamophobia, right?
Got it.
The issue here is this is a public figure, a person who's supposed to be keeping people safe. And my issue with many police, and I'm very careful because I have friends who are police. My issue with police oftentimes is that if you are sharing jokes that are racist, that are sexist, that are homophobic, that are discriminate against folks with disabilities, any type of these things, how do you compartmentalize the humor with your ability to carry out your job in as humanly objective as possible? How do you do that? Because in order to share these jokes, there has to be something of inhumanity in that group.
I agree.
I've seen police share racist jokes, and it's like, oh, it's just a joke. I get that, but you're going to encounter that person, right? It is about making someone not human. It is my problem with the way police officers speak about people as bad guys and jerks, and how they speak about sex offenders as the lowest scum of the earth. You're entitled to your opinion, but as a person who has to carry out justice, once again, I mean, this goes back to my conversation earlier, right? Maybe it's my fault because I believe in real culture. I believe in ideal culture, that even someone who I think does the most heinous act against another person or against society, I believe that they're innocent until proven guilty, right? And so that's not your space to even stereotype or call. And it goes back to something George Jackson wrote in Soledad Brothers, which is he looked around the prison and said the only difference between the prisoners and the police officers is we got kicked out of school. They were allowed to graduate. Neither one of us were good in school. We both came from the same neighborhoods, or we were both of our families were poor. So we were tracked into being a criminal, and you were tracked into policing the criminals. Y'all are just as bad a gang as we are, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So you hear these comments, you hear these statements, you read these Islamophobic emails. It's like, how can you, as humanly objective as possible, do your job?
Like, you're not going to catch any disagreement with me on that one. I find it, it's like like you said, they're public figures. And you have to encounter these folks, and your job is to administer justice. And so therefore, you having these ideas in your head, that's not okay. It's not okay. And if you can clearly demonstrate that that's what you got rolling around in your head for a public figure, well, deuces. That, to me, honestly, it's just that simple.
Yeah. Continuing in policing, not that we're the police watchers. A man was videoed by police by a body camera in a fatal encounter And before he died, this is the state of Georgia, before he died, he said, I quit. Now, before y'all get all on us talking about here we go again, the victim was white and the officer was white.
Yep. And look, these are the kind of things that I always wonder about, because remember, but here I do go again, because it's like just in case you thought you was going to escape a Black Lives Matter type of type of comment, because these folks are white, because both the officer and the victim were white. No, it's actually, I'm making a Black Lives Matter argument right now. If you read the details of the encounter, so this white dude snatched the taser out of the police officer's hand. I don't know about you, but this wouldn't have even made the news if he would have got shot and killed right then. Because that actually makes sense to me, as dude should have been shot and killed. However, in my head, I'm like, yo, why didn't this dude get shot and killed? Get shot and killed over he snatched the taser out of they got the taser. If I recall correctly, I think that's what Walter Scott got accused of, because he didn't do that, but that Walter Scott got accused of, and that's what, was justification for the police officer to shoot and kill him. And so I'm like, yo, how did this dude still live that long? That's what I'm wondering. It's like, how did he live? See, because this is the part that people get all twisted up with me. It's like, look, there's times when a police officer should kill somebody. I would argue that would be one of them. It's just applying it equally. That's what I'm looking for. Honestly, that is what the idea of what I'm looking for. It's just that Black bodies, they don't live that long. They don't get to struggle with the police like that. It's like and boom,
right,
bang. You know what I'm saying? This was a prolonged fight. Dude it's amazing to me. Like I said, that this dude lived that long, period, with all the stuff that was going on. And that's the part that, like I said, truly amazes me in that.
I think I read stories like this, and I too am quick to say, no, this doesn't mean. I reject the argument. See, it happens to white people too.
Yeah.
Like I completely reject that argument, and that's not to say I'm applauding the situation. And there are numerous activists and organizers who are rallying around the way that we police and the way we apply force. And I think those folks who are rallying around that cause and are investigating that both within the system and outside of the system, I think this is the type of case that they include in many of the same cases that Black Lives Matter are organizing around. And that's great. I mean, that's why there's multiple coalitions for multiple different injustices and issues in our society.
Yeah.
Anytime a life is lost, I don't care if it's quote unquote justifiable or not. I mean, it's unfortunate to me.
Yeah.
I live in San Bernardino. We get 27 homicides. I get sensitive around the life being lost, even as I get desensitized to it. Yeah. But I always find it fascinating that articles like this in the New York Times, the way it's framed. Now, before you think we're saying that, understand this is a white person and a white person. Why does that even need to be caused? The mere fact that the mere fact that you're presenting this story as a way to say that it's not white versus black, that it breaks the narrative, that it breaks what's going on, is clearly an admission that there is a pattern, and that narrative is a part of our culture, a part of our society.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, like I said, and because when I was doing the Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter workshop, I found some footage, because everybody, when people are, making their arguments, the first thing they want to do is Google when a black person or when a black officer kills a white victim, or white on white. It's like, because the people who do the white on white one, they want to make an overall argument about that it's just a police system that we need to overhaul. And you know, and I don't disagree with that. The system of policing has needed to be overhauled back before slavery times. I completely get that. And yet at the same time, you know, when people are trying to make those arguments and whatnot, they're minimizing that effect on Black people. And like I said, it's like, look, I get because it's very infantilizing to me to make it seem like I don't understand what a justifiable police shooting would look like. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not saying that all Black people deserve to not die at the hands of a police officer. What I'm saying is that there's a hell of a lot more Black people that didn't deserve to die at the hands of a police officer that you couldn't justify and whatnot, and that the balance in that space is the common denominator in that space is race. Because one of the things that people kept on coming up to me and talking to me about was like this case that happened in it was like Utah or something like that, and I can't remember the details of it. Google it yourself. You know, police officer killing, Utah. I'm sure it'll come up. And it was a white kid. It was that was the big thing, because like I said, they're trying to argue that this is not a Black Lives Matter thing, right? And whatnot. It's a police fives or whatever that argument is. And they actually have videotape. They have videotape, and so I'm watching the videotape, and what the white dude does, so police officers, they come up with him, guns drawn, roll up on him, hey, because the guy's just walking away, yo, turn around, freeze.
Point that gun at me, man.
It's just my finger, but okay. But they rolled up on him, said, turn around, freeze. This dude turns around and starts walking backwards, and obviously there's a verbal altercation, like, who the hell are you? Like something like that I know happened. And then this guy reaches behind him, bang, bang, bang. And I'm like, yo,
yeah,
sorry, that's justifiable.
My friend, my boy, Dr. Javon Johnson, let me call him by his academic title. He articulated so clearly in a poem that he wrote. It's the way that our Black boys, and I would add Black bodies, I'm misquoting, he probably did say Black bodies. It's the way that Black bodies are deemed problems.
Yes. Right?
Long before there are any other explanations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's finish on this story. I know where you teach, where I used to teach at Maricosta, is a lot of military students, and that because of that, we got to hear some crazy stories, some awesome stories. You military yourself, but one of the things that no matter how often folks bring it up, it's still kind of one of the dark secrets in the military is women who experience sexual assault.
Yes.
And what happens, not just how sexual assault happens and the isolation that often happens in the military for women, but what happens when they do report it. CNN Politics did an investigation, and they were just looking at how women are often punished when they report that they've been sexually assaulted. And this punishment goes anywhere in the way of being removed from the unit or from their job or from a specific location to even worse, extra duties, extra work.
Or a crappy discharge that makes it hard.
Or absolutely worse, right? The worst, dishonorable, well, not the worst, but among the worst things that can happen, right? Dishonorable discharge.
Yeah, and so and let's make this clear, because it's like you're speaking, and I was like, I want to slow this down for folks. What we're saying is the military punishes sexual assault victims.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Not the perpetrator, the victims.
I just needed to make that clear, because like for real, like it's like if you don't pick that part up, it's like you're like, of course that would happen. It's like, of course you should get extra duty removed and all this. No. We're talking about the victims.
Right.
The actual victims we're talking about, not the perpetrators. The perpetrators actually very rarely, if ever, as the report shows, which, by the way, the military like denies, and what they're like, I don't know where they're getting this information from. Yo, kid, I know where they're getting the information from the horse's mouth, if you would. And I'm not, anyway, but they're getting it directly from the mouths of women themselves versus, versus getting the military report, which would say that basically that this doesn't exist. Yo, I've had women come back from the field, and they said that I got raped. I got left. I remember this one woman, she said, not only did I get raped, but the unit left me. And then she found her way back she found her way back, and she reported it, and then nothing happened. And then she was deemed the problem. Right. She was the problem. She was the one that needed to be fixed. She got, I don't know. I don't remember what actually happened to her after that. But the fact that she was in my class and was not part of the military anymore lets me know, I didn't go into any details about it, but lets me know how comfortable she felt being in the military after that. That's for damn sure. And so it's just like, yo, what are we really talking about here when we talk about, this idea of rape culture that it's like, because we've talked about that before, and it ain't going away. Not that I don't hope in the ideal culture that rape culture doesn't go away, but stuff like this are the very things that actually promote rape culture, that the perpetrators don't get off, and the victim is the one that actually gets punished. That's crazy. That's rape culture. That's how it keeps on going.
I'm just reminded of how there are segments of our society that are completely off limits to us as researchers, us as organizers, us as humans, right? Us as citizens and humans in this space. The military is off as a person who cares about human rights, right?
Yeah.
It's just off limits, and we don't find out about these things until way after, until folks have gone through the trauma. Folks have gone through, this really overwhelming institutionalization, and all we can do as folks is say, "Wow, yeah, glad you're in class now."
I hate to laugh at all, but yeah, for real.
That's it. I remember a student who shared an experience about her friend who was sexually assaulted. And she said that nothing happened. She went and told the leader, forgive me, I don't know military terms, but she told the person in charge, and the response was, I can follow through with this, but morale's already low. This is going to destroy morale. And we're weighing morale. We're weighing the ability to accomplish a task against a person who was sexually assaulted.
That's just so wrong on so many.
And it's not. And I want to be very careful, right? Because I believe that they're watching. I don't want to get sniped right now.
That's nervous laughter, not right. That's nervous laughter.
But no, there are certainly folks in place to handle these things. There are certainly folks in place to prevent these things. There are certainly agencies and people who care and are concerned, right? I don't want to pretend that the military is this evil institution hiding all of these secrets. However, when you read this report, when you hear these stories, and you realize you cannot quantify this, you cannot find out how many, you cannot find these experiences because folks have been covering it up for so long. Folks have been made uncomfortable, have been forced to not come forward.
Right. No, absolutely. One of the things that I think of in this space is there's a book called Maneuvers. I'm blanking on the author right now, but she talks about how rape is part of war. Like rape is an element of war, and you literally it's such an integral part of it that multiracial children, multi-ethnic children have become the symbol of the conquest.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the audience knows, our three members, our three viewers right now know that I'm that I study not only race and ethnicity, but also multiracial identity formation. And that when we talk about multiracial bodies, the very beginning, the beginning of the understandings of multiracial bodies were in the context of war, because like I said, it was the symbol of a conquest, which means that there was a lot of rape happening in these spaces, and a lot of women who were getting pregnant and having the children of, quote, the conquerors, if you would. And so therefore, when we talk about the military and not wanting, it's like all of these things get jumbled up in my head, and I always hear about male combat vets, and they say women shouldn't be out in the field. When they have to go to the bathroom, I'm not even kidding. I actually heard someone say this, and I understand what he's saying. It's like when they have to go to the bathroom, they have to almost like disarm themselves. Like going to the bathroom for them in the field is a big deal. For men, it's not. It's like, okay, I get that, but I'm sure that there's some ways that we can figure that out real quick. And I'm not even, it's like I'm not going to engage in that too much. But what I continue to think about as to the real reason why we don't want men, or that we don't want women in the field, is because we don't want to expose, we as men in those spaces don't want to expose their own behaviors of raping and pillaging and murder and all of that stuff into that space that we do, even though we're, quote, supposed to be the good guys. Now, please don't misunderstand. The people who are vets, I love and respect you. War, rape,
war. I mean,
yeah. I'm still gonna tell you the truth.
And that's the thing. We have to talk truth about this. I know I've been asked that a few times. What do you think about women being allowed to be on the front lines? Listen, as a person who's never been on the front lines, I can only go into the deepest, darkest corners of my imagination, and I should not be thinking and speaking out of that space. Yeah. Now, I certainly don't want to take anyone's right to, that certainly doesn't say that, oh, well, because men would do this, that you don't have a right. I'm not at all suggesting that. Yeah. But I am saying for folks who are speaking and having these conversations about gender equality in women in the front lines, if we aren't there and haven't been there, we might want to speak very softly. We might want to, we can feel free to think, we can feel free to write, we can feel free to theorize, but we might want to be very careful about what we are advocating for when we don't know. Yeah. Right. And I'm very, very careful in this conversation because I get it. I get how huge that is. I get that a woman can do anything. My cousin's in the military. I wouldn't want to see her. I'm going to be on the opposite side of seeing her. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get that. But again, in the deepest, darkest corners of my imagination, hey, who am I to tell you anything? And that's something that we as scholars have to always keep in mind when we haven't been in the situation, that these theories sometimes is just theories. These conversations, sometimes conversations. For other folks, it's trauma, it's pain, it's stress, it's life, it's death, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, and like I said, that's with respect. It's to say we have a job to analyze, we have a job to apply sociology to these contexts, and at the same time, there's a very real reality that happens on the front line. I was a vet. I am a vet, but it was a Navy, and I didn't see combat. So I will throw my hands up at that. At the same time, I do have an idealized space of how things are supposed to go, and that's not it.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, we're pushing an hour. We like to keep them under an hour for sure.
Wait. Oh, but I got to tell you the Oklahoma City legislator one about the sodomy law.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So anyway, talking about rape culture, right? It's like making sure that just to finish off this rape culture bid here, is that Oklahoma legislation, they have to fix a sodomy law. But if you're reading this, if people don't know what sodomy is, which my colleague, he did not know something about sodomy, and that's
most people don't know what sodomy is.
Yeah, well, sodomy, most people when they think of sodomy is they think of anal penetration.
Yeah, put me on blast, like I'm the only one who don't know.
Okay, no, but you are the only one who doesn't know in this room. Not kidding. Well, we're not even in a room.
Yeah, it's a room.
But yo, this is what people trip out about, is that if you don't know the laws, sodomy laws include anal sex, oral sex, and bestiality. So those are the spaces. And so when they're talking about the sodomy law, they're actually talking about oral sex, which, like I said, most of us never even think about oral sex when we think about actual sodomy laws. And if you really wanted to do some thinking about that, I'm not going to tell too much of my own business or anybody else's business, but I'm sure that there's a lot of people that's going to go to prison if we actually understood that oral sex was actually against the law. But anyway, let's just leave that out there and say what they're talking about simply in this article that absolutely infuriates me. Because if you have to legislate common sense, then we're in a whole hell of a lot of trouble. And to me, having to legislate that someone can't give consent if they're unconscious, I want to throw blows on somebody. I want to hurt somebody academically, metaphorically. Because you have to say, and so because what's happening is that because the person was unconscious in this scenario, because the victim was unconscious, they're not going to be penalized at a higher crime than accused of a higher crime or convicted of a higher crime than if they were awake and aware and whatnot. So because they were unconscious, they're going to be penalized for a lower crime. And I think that is just, that's idiotic on a whole different level, because like I said, the argument is generally, or the argument from other spaces is that if you're unconscious, that you have to legislate that being unconscious means that you can't give consent.
Right.
That's the punchline.
It's that they didn't say no.
Yeah.
CeeLo Green argument.
Well, I don't know a whole bunch about CeeLo.
You didn't hear about that? Yeah, CeeLo Green said, well, they did not give consent. They did not give consent.
Yeah, see, I'm sorry.
You can't not give consent when you're unconscious. I hope I'm doing that right? But it's like, okay, this is true. I can't reject you if I'm unconscious.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make it consent, right? If you have not seen consent with T, you must Google it and watch consent with T as an example. That is exactly what every person who does not absolutely understand and aren't sure they understand what consent is, you must watch that.
Okay.
You must watch that.
Yeah, like I said, if you got to legislate common sense, and the bad thing, it was the judges that made the point that being unconscious, and so I'm like, so then that means that we have rape culture all the way into the judge level. You know?
It's written into it's the language.
Yeah. Right,
and it's the language, and that's the most beautiful thing and most frustrating thing about our judicial system.
Absolutely,
it's the language. Funny how when we want to get somebody, the language doesn't matter.
And when you want to let them off, well, that's why you get expensive lawyers. Because
that's what you get lawyers for. Yep. Quote the great scholar Biggie Smalls, that's why you have lawyers watching lawyers.
No doubt.
And you won't go broke. All right, yeah, we pushed the hour, but man, shout out to the viewers. We had 5 of y'all today. Awesome.
Oh, nice.
We're growing. That's huge growth. We went from 3 to 5.
I think that's my wife watching on like 2 computers though.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
No doubt. All
right, people. Next week is graduation. We should do one on graduation week.
No doubt.
All right.
Be blessed.